Hello and welcome to Faith Matters. This is the programme where we take a spiritual perspective on Merseyside life. And today we're at St George's Church in Everton with Kate Wharton, who's the vicar.
Yes.
Now, Kate, you seem very young to be a vicar.
That's very nice of you to say.
You're female, and I understand you're also the area dean.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be here.
Well, I've been ordained for 11 years. Clearly, I was ordained as a child. I've been vicar here at St George's for just over 7 years. And I've been area dean of Liverpool North, so that's the area that covers kind of Everton, Anfield, Kensington, and Kirkdale, for 3 years.
What does an area dean do?
I'm not sure, but if I work it out, I'm sure we'll all get on a lot better. I guess there's an oversight role of the clergy in the deanery, and there is a support for them. If the church is in a vacancy, I'm there to help that church out until they get another vicar. I go to meetings with the bishop and the senior staff of the diocese to help policies and things kind of be cascaded down into the deanery, also take any concerns to them, kind of intermediary, I guess, in that way.
So you're pretty busy then, really?
Yeah.
So, what's going on here? I hear there's exciting things going on here.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what's happening here.
Well, this is a great church. It's a great place to be. You'll have noticed as you walked in that we have the best view here in the city.
Incredible.
We look out over the whole of the city, the Welsh hills. It's absolutely fantastic view. Whatever the weather, whatever time of day it is, brilliant view. And we've got this fantastic building, which has just celebrated its 200th anniversary in 2014. We had our 200th anniversary celebration, which was great fun. We really enjoyed that. So this brilliant building stood here for over 200 years, and lots going on inside it, lots going on in the community, lots of good things, yeah.
And it's called the Iron Church,
yes.
And there's obviously a reason for that it's essentially iron. Is it one of two? I think it's one of two.
Yes, well, we're the first.
You're the first. The other one's in Garston,
in Toxteth, in the Dingle,
in
St Michael and the Hamlet.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So they were built just a little bit after us by the same set of people, the same architects and builders and what have you. But this is the first church in the world to be made of cast iron.
Really?
So all of the pillars, all of the ironwork that you see, it's the first church in the world to be made in that way.
And why? Why iron? Is that because any connection to Liverpool?
I don't know really very much about kind of why they decided to do it. I guess at the time it seemed like a good building work to begin, and they thought we've got the iron, we're here in Liverpool, we'll build this building, and maybe this will be the future. Maybe we'll be building all buildings and all churches like this. Of course, it didn't work out like that, and there are definitely some issues with having an iron building.
Right.
But it is beautiful, and it is therefore very historic and world famous, and we do get visitors from all around the world, and we're always keen to get some more.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about your church congregation, the kind of activities. Now, you're a growing church, aren't you? I've been here. It was a few years ago, but I took a couple of services here before I got too busy with TV and things like that. But you're a growing church. You've got young people coming in. You've got a lot of stuff going on with kids and some disadvantaged people. Just share with our viewers a little bit about that.
Yeah, we are a growing church, and we're proud of the fact that, I say this a lot, we're proud of the fact that in our church congregation we have people from every decade of life. So we have a good number of children and young people. We've got young people in their 20s and 30s all the way through. I'm not sure how old our oldest member is, but certainly well into 80s. And we're not a big congregation, but we are certainly growing. We're bigger than we were, and we often see new people come and join us on a Sunday, and that's great. We really enjoy that. So we have lots of kids' work on a Sunday. Our kids' work happens in the Albion House, the centre next door, and we have youth work, which happens during the week. Next door, the Beacon Primary School is our church school. We're linked together with them, and so we have a great relationship with them. Lots of things happen with them. Every Wednesday, the whole school comes in here for collective worship. Every Thursday, we do an after-school club over there, Messy Thursday. Lots of things in the summer holidays. So there's lots going on here. We have, on a Tuesday morning, we've recently started a thing called Signpost, which is just a drop-in, an opportunity to signpost people who might need help with, they might need food from the food bank, they might need clothes, and they might need some advice about debt or benefits. They might not be sure where to go to sign on or to find information, and they can come along to us and we can show them where to get all that information. And we're also involved with other deanery and ecumenically with other churches, with a food bank, with debt advice, with lots of different things like that.
So, I mean, you're touching on it really, but this part of Liverpool. I mean, it's a great part of Liverpool, great history with a great football team, but it is an area of need.
It is,
isn't it? And
yes.
there is social deprivation here. People
Yes.
having a hard time. In the time you've been here, have you seen that get worse?
Yes, I think we have seen it get worse, and we've seen it change as well in terms of what the issues are. So the Church Urban Fund publish statistics every few years, and clearly there are lots of different ways of measuring poverty and deprivation. But the Church Urban Fund's most recent statistics show this parish as the poorest parish in Liverpool diocese, and therefore that obviously makes it one of the poorest in the country. By those same statistics, we're the 30th poorest parish nationally, and there are over 12,000. So clearly it is an area of deprivation, and we have seen that get worse. I mean, when I arrived here, I don't really think we'd heard of food banks, have we? Sort of 7 years ago, they didn't. There weren't many around, and certainly our work in that area has started over those years. So we've seen that increase, and that's terrible in terms of the people who are struggling. It's good in terms of the fact that we now have lots of things in place to help them. We hope we wouldn't have to have those things, but we do have those things now in place to help people. But also we've seen the makeup of the area change. And when I arrived 7 years ago, it was still a fairly white area. Most people here were from Liverpool, from the UK. This is where they had grown up and always lived. And over the last 7 years, we've seen a lot of asylum seekers, a lot of people from different parts of the world come. And again, those people are often in very difficult circumstances. But I think what that has brought to the area has in some ways been a real positive. So our church is now a really multicultural congregation, which is a great thing actually for us.
You talked about the youth work you're doing. You've got a youth club that runs during the week, and that's obviously local youth coming to that. But I know that you've had a bit of stick, from your vicarage is just a target, isn't it? Really? Should have a target outside.
It does sit right there. Yeah.
You could, I suppose I'm thinking back to my own misspent youth. I was thinking you could easily, throw something at this and be away in no time. How's that been for you? I know you put stuff on Facebook, which is I'm always amused by, because you seem to take it in your stride.
Well, I love it. I mean, I'm an extrovert, so I process things on Facebook because I live on my own. So if something happens that's funny, I put it on Facebook because I want to share it with someone. And I love living here because I have the best view in Liverpool. Nobody has a better view of the city than I have. And it's a great house, and I love living here. Gets a bit of weather because the wind comes straight in. But it's never going to flood on this hill, so, pros and cons. But yes, I mean, the church and the vicarage do get their share of stick, sometimes literally sticks, because it seems to be a bit of a target for stone throwing particularly. I mean, we're really happy with young people using this area as a place to congregate. It's a great place to sit and hang out with your mates and have fun, and we've got no problem with that at all. Bit more of a problem when things get thrown, but but I love living here. I mean, people sometimes say to me, aren't you scared living there on your own or whatever? And I'm not, for two reasons. One is that I believe this is where God's called me to be, and if he's called me to be here, then he's going to take care of me. But also because the vast majority of people in this area, as in every other area, are just really good people.
So I understand that they call you Rocky at the crematorium. Is that the reason?
There may have been
hard as nails.
There may have been a situation recently. Let's move on. But there was also not long after I'd arrived at the pub. Actually, we have a good relationship with the people at the pub across the road as well. And I got a phone call from the landlady of the pub. There's actually new people in the pub now, but the landlady at the time phoned me and she said, "Kate, can you come and help?" I'd never met her before. "Can you come and help? There are some kids outside and they're throwing stones at cars as they go past, and it's really quite dangerous." She said, "But I don't want to go and talk to them, because if I go and talk to them, I'll break my windows." And I thought, never mind about my windows. But the great end to that story was I did go out and I did talk to the kids, and they did run off. And I went into the pub just to say that all was now clear, and everyone was so impressed that I got bought pints of beer all night. So.
Okay, and you're involved here as a church with something called New Wine, which is a national movement. Just very briefly, for the last kind of minute, just tell us a little bit about that. Tell our viewers a little bit about that.
New Wine is a national movement of churches. It's non-denominational. It's an evangelical charismatic movement, and it exists to support and network churches and Christians, and in lots of different ways. So the reason most people know New Wine is because there are summer gatherings where lots of people get together and camp and have great fun and listen to speakers. It's kind of a Christian festival. But there are lots of other ways in which they connect and network people and support and resource churches and church leaders throughout the year as well. So it's been a great thing for me personally as a vicar to be involved in, but also as our church to go along and meet with other Christians and join in something that's kind of bigger than ourselves. Really.
And it's it covers the north and the south. And,
yeah, it's a whole national, well, it's an international, but in England, it covers the whole.
And you take your guys down in the summer?
We do, we go down to Shepton Mallet to camp, bit of a trek for us, but we enjoy it.
Long
bit
way.
of a road trip, we have fun. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Kate. We're going to go now to our commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about your other role, perhaps as an author. So join us after the break with Kate Wharton on Faith Matters. Welcome back to Faith Matters. We're here at St George's Church up on the Brow at Everton with Kate Wharton, who's the vicar. We were talking about a church in the previous part of this programme. I want to come on now to talk about something else that you do and something else that you are.
Yes.
Because you're a published author, aren't you?
I am, yes.
How do you find the time for that?
I'm not really sure. People ask me that often. I feel slightly like I dreamt it all, really. I don't know how I found time, but I did. I wrote a book. There it is. Yeah, Single-Minded.
Hold it up to the camera. We're going to talk about that now. So what's Single-Minded about? And why did you write it?
Yeah, I mean, it came out of actually New Wine, we spoke about earlier. I was asked quite a few years ago to do a seminar at New Wine about singleness. Because I am single, I always have been, and I wasn't sure, to be honest. I was, I'm not quite sure. How do you do a kind of helpful seminar on singleness that doesn't just depress everybody and is kind of positive? And I just wasn't really sure about it. And I said no, actually, the first time, and then I got asked again, and I thought, well, maybe there's a way of doing this. Maybe I can do this seminar. And I came up with these two titles. I kind of actually dreamt them. This never really happens to me, but I kind of woke up one morning with these two titles, which are about living a God-obsessed life in a sex-obsessed world and living a God-obsessed life in a marriage-obsessed church. Now, both of those might be controversial ideas in their own way, but I did those two seminars and then was asked to do more. And since then, I've just found that I think it was just a sort of moment in time where a lot of people were looking at that issue, asking that question, and it just seemed to fit. And after I'd done 4 seminars, my friend said to me, why don't you write a book? And I thought, well, it seemed to me that there were certain types of people who wrote books and ordinary people didn't do that. And I wouldn't have time and I wouldn't know how to do it and all of those questions. But I guess she planted a seed of a thought, really, and a friend, a tutor of mine from college, put me in touch with his publisher, who agreed to read a draft, and I had a go, and it turned out I could actually write and do it, and then the book happened. And it took a long time. I mean, it took a few hours here and there, and then a few days together when I had to every so often spend a few days really trying to work on it. And the last couple of weeks before the deadline, a lot of very, very late nights, but I got them.
Okay, so the issues of singleness, was that something that you'd struggled with yourself, do you think, or did it make you look at it perhaps for the first time? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it was a bit of both. I mean, it certainly was something I had thought about, obviously, and I was 30 when I first got asked to do those seminars, and so, as a 30-year-old single woman, you're obviously thinking, about them. It wasn't a massive kind of issue for me. It wasn't kind of, taking over my whole life or anything, but it was something I was aware of. But I think that, obviously since that's now almost 8 years ago, and so time has passed and I've thought about it lots more. But also in doing the talks I've done, because I've been invited to lots of different churches, even overseas I've done talks on this since, which has been fantastic, real privilege. And in doing those talks and in meeting single people, I think I've come to realise that this is actually something that, in particular the church, I think really needs to engage with. Yeah,
and you talked about a marriage-obsessed church.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those of us who are in the church, we know that's true. I mean, our viewers might not know too much about that because not all of them will be church people. But tell us a little bit about that. Why is that?
Yeah, well, I guess what I would say about that is that I think the church, really rightly and properly, the church wants to say in society that we think marriage is a good thing. Marriage is important, marriage is special, and I think the church rightly honours marriage and family life and wants to really support and resource people who are seeking to kind of live in that way. And things like the marriage course seek to support married people and families, and that's brilliant. But I think what has happened is in their desire to do that, often, when I say the church, I mean, perhaps sort of nationally, but also individual local churches, in their desire to do that, have sometimes, and I'm sure that they don't mean to do this, but have sometimes made it feel for single people like they don't quite fit. And church can sometimes, unfortunately, be quite a difficult place for single people because it feels as though it's set up for marriage people and for families. Okay,
here in this diocese, Liverpool diocese, where you're a fairly senior leader, what are we doing in the diocese of Liverpool to address that here locally, that issue?
I think, there may be opportunities, I guess, for me to have this conversation. It's one of those things, I think, when you write something that you end up getting invited further afield to do talks on it than locally. So I haven't really done that much locally about it, to be honest. Although people have obviously been supportive of the book and things. And I think a lot of people who do go to church will say, actually, this isn't my experience. And lots of people, obviously, have had brilliant church experiences, and church has done what church is meant to do, which is just feel like a family that supports everybody, a place where we're all there for each other in whatever's going on in our lives. But some people will say, actually, I do understand this experience as a single person. Church has felt difficult for me. And I would just hope that in the Diocese of Liverpool, in every place, that church leaders, that people who kind of shape vision or shape direction of churches will be saying, actually, we want to be a church that's open and that's welcoming for everybody. People of all ages, people of all backgrounds, people who are well educated or not, people who have lots of money or don't, people who are married and have children or don't. And we just want everybody to feel that church is a place where they're welcome.
And to be welcomed together
on
an equal kind
absolutely.
of footing. That's the kind of point. I was in a church, I've been in a couple of churches where this would have been the case, where there was a lot of young adults, where they became kind of, a bit of a dating zone. And then lots of people then got, I ended up, as a clergy person, doing lots of weddings, which was a joy.
Which is great,
But the single people who were kind of, didn't meet somebody for, very good reasons or for no reason at all, often felt really isolated in that type of scenario. Whereas I think perhaps in a church maybe like yours, where you've got a great diversity of people from lots of backgrounds and ages, it maybe the pressure isn't quite the same. So some churches probably need to address it more than others. Would you think
I think you're absolutely right. I think, and sometimes smaller churches can be a little bit better at being inclusive of everybody, because everybody's a bit different. You don't end up with these great big groups of people, so great big groups of young married couples with children, or great big groups of young single adults, where if you don't fit that group you feel left out. Whereas in a church like ours, where we do have a real mix of people and we're smaller, for a start it's just easier to know everybody, and it's easier, I think, sometimes therefore to include everybody, and
to be a family.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you published this one book. Now, have you got any others in the pipeline? That's the way that particularly the Christian book world is. Once you've written one, you're going to get invited to write another.
That's right. I've had a chapter in another book, actually, a book called Awesome Voices, which tells the story of different women in who were ordained. So I've written one of the chapters in that book. And I always said to people, no, I only wrote this book because I'm passionate about singleness. I wrote the book to talk about the issue rather than because I wanted to write a book. I'm not going to write another one. And then, of course, inevitably now I find myself with all of these different ideas because I really enjoyed the writing process. I wasn't sure if I could do it, and I found that I could. And it's an absolute joy when people contact me and say, we found your book helpful, thank you for that. So I have got other ideas. People forever say to me, oh, Kate, all the stories you tell about ministry and life in Everton, you should write a book about that. But I don't think I could really.
Well, you can't when you're still here.
Well, you can't when you're still here, no. But also, it's people's lives, isn't it? You can't tell people's stories without their permission. and probably no one would believe it either. But I do have other ideas, and I'm in conversation with other friends about things we might be able to do together. And Monica have been a brilliant publisher, and they're keen to have conversations about future things. So yeah, I'm definitely not dismissing the idea of writing something else.
Yeah, a friend of mine who I was at college with a long time ago is she's just written a book. She was a prison chaplain for 10 years and has written a book aptly entitled Jailbird.
Great.
Sharon Grenham Thompson, she's called, but she's written it after she's, it wouldn't have been right to write it while she was still doing the job. But we've got a minute or so. We were talking earlier about the wonderful window that we can see behind us, and you were telling us something about the history of the church, that this window is post-war, and the windows were blown out during the war that would have been bombs dropping all around?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have a wonderful gentleman in our church called Bob Harrington, who is the oracle about this building, and if people are interested in coming to visit, he's the person who does all the tours and knows all the history. I don't know nearly as much as him, but from my understanding of it, because of where this church is situated and because of its height and its prominence, it wasn't bombed directly in the war. It was used as a marker so that they knew where everywhere else was. So places around it got bombed, and therefore all these windows would have been stained glass. They were all blown out and replaced with plain glass for cost reasons. But that window was replaced as it is now, so the beautiful window we now see, but it was, after the war. And it's completely different in design from the window that was there before. We do have photographs of it.
Yeah, unlike the one that was replaced in the Vicar of Dibley.
In the Vicar of Dibley, which was replaced with clear glass.
I'm sure you get lots of references to that. But we haven't got any longer to talk because we've come to the end of our programme. It's been absolutely wonderful being with you here in your church. Thank you for inviting us here today. And see you next time, everyone, for Faith Matters on Bay TV.